prizes will be awarded at the end of our assembly. You've all finished your exams and the holidays are close, so I thought we might celebrate with a Mexican wave. Please can the parents and visitors at the back join in? After all, soon you're going to have your sons and daughters all to yourselves for a very long time. We're going to do this from the front row back, so what I want you to do is to stand up, throw your hands in the air as high as you can, and then immediately sit down. Okay, are you ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Front row. This is a week in which we celebrate books in all shapes and forms. This year with the theme of literature through history. Can anyone suggest what relevance to Book Week the song you heard as you entered the hall has? If you were listening. Did anybody hear the words? Thank you.
Romeo and Juliet.
Thank you so much.
Dire Straits.
You will be getting a chocolate bar later. I'm very impressed. And who wrote Romeo and Juliet?
Dire Straits.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. Throughout the week, each department will be teaching you about books and the involvement of literature specific to various subjects. For example, DT will look at the printing press. In maths, the codes that have appeared in history books. History will look at books that have changed world history and so forth. There is a book cover competition going on in Creatives, and also everyone will participate in DEAR, Drop Everything and Read. This means that for 15 minutes a day, when you hear something like this, I think we need to be a bit louder than that, or they won't hear it if they're busy doing their lessons. Ready, steady, go. Very much, thank you. You will need to drop exactly what you're doing, teachers included, and read. So you'll need to have a book with you at all times this week. If you haven't got one yet, go to the library at first break, so that you're ready for this afternoon when we'll start. In activities today, there'll be a book quiz in here for everyone starting at 2 o'clock. What is literature? It's a written work, especially one with lasting artistic merit. Do you think the books that you read now will be read by your grandchildren and great-grandchildren? Will they study them in class? Will Harry Potter, The Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Fault in Our Stars and Eragon be considered as literature in 50 years' time, do you think? This morning we will look at the history of the literature of the Western world, because it developed first and has shaped, for good or ill, the text for the rest of the world. It is the writing that is studied in most universities, together sometimes now with world literature. That is literature from continents other than Europe and America. You will find a display of world literature in the library. Incidentally, at several of the top universities in the world at the moment, Oxford and Cambridge for example, you can choose to study the Harry Potter novels as part of your literature degree. Academics have categorised literature into literary periods, much as we categorise history into historical periods. The Romans, the Elizabethans, etc. This rope, Anish, can you just hold up a bit of the rope, please? Represents a visual timeline. From the beginning of time, that's where Anish is sitting at the moment, or just behind him actually, man has sought to reflect his experiences of life in pictures and writing, starting with cave paintings. This was done 38,000 years ago, 38,000 actually BCE or BC. We talk about before Christ, or nowadays BCE, before the Common Era. And that is pretty amazing. Look at those hands reaching out. Those hands belonged to people who had thoughts and feelings like you. Songs and stories were sung and read before they were written down. From 5000 BCE, for example, the Aborigines of Australia created a rich heritage of songs which are immensely complicated. They can walk across desert for hundreds of miles and find their way when anyone else will quickly get lost and die. But their myths and legends, often called songlines, are created about their natural landscape. However, they are sung and not written down. Does literature have an impact on people's behaviour? Can it affect politics? Yes, it can. The poetry of the Scottish poet Robert Burns is celebrated every year in almost every country in the world since his death in 1796. The poetry of the American Robert Frost was read out at the inauguration or appointment of the new President American J.F. Kennedy in 1961, celebrating the idea of hope that we all share. Daily, unconsciously, we quote from poems and from writers. Books reflect behaviour and shape the world. If you say, good riddance, fair play, it's seen better days. If you talk of a wild goose chase, you've got to be cruel to be kind, a heart of gold. Who do you think you are quoting? Anybody have a guess? I can hear you whispering it. Go on, Amaret. Shakespeare, quite right. Those were the phrases he coined. We need that rope actually back with Anish so that we can pull it out. So pull it right back there, please. The Anglo-Saxon Germanic tribes came to the English shores at the fall of the Roman Empire in the 5th century, in what is now known as the Dark Ages. They were poor people in search of new life and new ideas. Even though they were a minority, they had a huge impact on culture and society, largely because of the language they brought with them, which is the basis of English today. Words such as green, red, hand, embody and key concepts such as mother, father, friend, hate, forgiveness, and God, life, and death. Words that define our beliefs and our emotions they brought with them. Let's get a flavour of what life was like then. And I'd like you to watch this and think, what was it like? After that. What do you think it was like? That was the Vikings attacking the Anglo-Saxons. Life then? What were their preoccupations? What were they concerned about? Anybody? Amaret again seems to be on the ball this morning. Go on, Amaret. Absolutely, yeah, invasion. That was a really big thing then. Okay, one of the first literary texts we know of is a long ballad called Beowulf, which is set in Denmark and Sweden. Like any immigrants, the Anglo-Saxons held dear the stories and myths about their journey to Britain and the love of their homelands. The poem reflects these things and tells of a hero's quest. Mr. Smith has very kindly standing in for Antonia, who's not well today. I just threw that at him a minute ago, and he's kindly going to read this extract from Beowulf to us. It describes Grendel, the enemy monster, attacking the hero Beowulf and his companions. This translation into modern English is by Seamus Healy. Thank you.
Mrs. C. Good morning, everybody. Feeling dead today. An extract from Beowulf. The iron-braced door turned on its hinge when his hands touched it. Then his rage boiled over. He ripped open the mouth of the building, maddening for blood, pacing the length of the patterned floor with his loathsome tread, while a baleful light, flame more than light, flared from his eyes. He saw many men in the mansion, sleeping, a ranked company of kinsmen and warriors quartered together, and his glee was demonic, picturing the mayhem before morning. He would rip life from limb and devour them, feed on their flesh, but his fate that night was due to change. His days of ravening had come to an end. The hall guards were slack, asleep at their posts, all except one. It was widely understood that as long as God disallowed it, the fiend could not bear them to his shadow born. One man, however, was in a fighting mood, awake and on edge, spoiling for action. Mighty and canny, Hygelac, kinsman, was keenly watching for the first move the monster would make. Nor did the creature keep him waiting, but struck suddenly and started in. He grabbed and mauled a man on his bench, bit into his bone lappings, bolted down his blood and gorged on him in lumps, leaving the body utterly lifeless, eaten up, hand and food. Venturing closer, his talon was raised to attack Beowulf. Where he lay on the bed, he was bearing in, with open claw, when the alert hero's comeback and arm lock forestalled him utterly. The captain of evil discovered himself in a hand grip harder than anything he had ever encountered in any man. Every bone in his body quailed and recoiled, but he could not escape. He was desperate to flee to his den and hide with the devil's litter, for in all his days he had never been clamped or cornered like this. Then Hygelac's trusty retainer recalled his bedtime speech, sprang to his feet and got a firm hold. Fingers were bursting, the monster backtracking, the man overpowering. The dread of the land was desperate to escape, to take a roundabout road and flee to his lair in the fens. The latching power in his fingers weakened. It was the worst trip the terramonger had taken to Hero. And now the timbers trembled and sang, a whole session that harrowed every day inside the stockade. Stumbling in fury, the two contenders crashed through the building.